Half of England is owned by less than 1% of the population.
Here's a summary of the article.
Half of England is owned by less than 1% of its population, according to new data shared with The Guardian that seeks to penetrate the secrecy that has traditionally surrounded land ownership. It's simply not right that aristocrats, whose families have owned the same areas of land for centuries, and large corporations exercise more influence over local neighborhoods, in both urban and rural areas, than the people who live there. Most people remain unaware of quite how much land is owned by so few, he writes, adding, a few thousand dukes, baronets and country squires own far more land than all of Middle England put together. Land ownership in England is astonishingly unequal, heavily concentrated in the hands of a tiny elite. As these estates have not been sold on the open market, their ownership does not need to be recorded at the Land Registry, the public body responsible for keeping a database of land and property in England and Wales. He has based this calculation on a spreadsheet of land owned by all UK-registered companies that has been released by the Land Registry. Conservation charities, such as the National Trust and the Woodland Trust, collectively own 2% of England, while the Church accounts for 0.5%. A small number of ultra-wealthy individuals have traditionally owned vast swaths of land in Scotland.
This post received a score of 15,260, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Major owners include the Duke of Buccleuch, the Queen, several large Grouse Moor estates, and the entrepreneur James Dyson.
James Dyson, who pushed for Brexit and then took his manufacturing out of the UK. Nice.
Even better, he said there will be no job losses because he had already fired the jobs before the announcement apparently. To be fair, that was already planned before Brexit. But I agree it doesn't exactly scream British confidence. Planned before Brexit as he was campaigning for Brexit.
Shorting the market.
Class division? In England?
Back to the mines now you. I'll be taking you child to work in my textile factory. 7. So already a man.
How odd and entrenched they were that a coal miners' union demanded subsidies for the coal mining corporations. During the time of the coal miners' strike, she continued to import coal and saw no need to open the coal mines ever again. Starting in 1984, Margaret Thatcher closed down 20 coal mines. The Labour Party were heavily pro-coal miners and delayed the closing of the last coal-powered plant by almost 20 years.
Greater than the mines were a constant symbol of the oppression of the working class in England. But by the time of the 1980s, the coal miners had become so unionised and so entrenched in their jobs that they began to use it to gain power. It's crazy that you try to frame the miners' strikes as if they're a bunch of greedy, rich people trying to hold all of Britain hostage as opposed to workers trying to be treated fairly.
Can't you trace it down that the original people William granted land to 1,000 years ago still own most of England?
I leave this land to you, Sir Patrick of Dyson, on the condition that one day your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson invents a bagless vacuum cleaner. At least he didn't invent Skynet, and bring about the fall of humanity, like his half-brother, Miles. UK already have Skynet and is used by British military since 60s.
Oh, well, fuck.
Still less crazy than Soviet death hand system. USSR and Russia operate a system which can automatically trigger the launch of the Russian ICBMs by sending a pre-entered highest authority order from the General Staff of the Armed Forces, Strategic Missile Force Management to command posts and individual silos if a nuclear strike is detected by seismic, light, radioactivity, and overpressure sensors even with the commanding elements fully destroyed. Sound familiar?
Mein Führer, I can walk.
The first onslaught, during the 14th to 17th centuries, came from landowners who converted arable land over to sheep, with legal support from the Statute of Merton of 1235. In Jack Cade's rebellion of 1450 land rights were a prominent demand. The final and most contentious wave of land enclosures in England occurred between about 1750 and 1850. Millions of people had customary and legal access to lands and the basis of an independent livelihood was snatched away from them.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.